him. There's no NDA involved. You just sat up there and basically told the world, he's ours, but we ain't going to use him.
Yeah. And they didn't give parameters of what it would take to reinstate
They gave
him.
no parameters of what it would take for reinstatement. They didn't specify what punishment they gave him beyond suspending him for the year. Is he getting his salary for this upcoming season? Has it been cut in half? I told he's only getting about 50% of it. Has that been cut in half?
Characterized as a significant financial penalty.
So you've got that going on. And I'm going to say this again. It said in the numerous news reports, it was a consensual relationship that violated organizational policy. So only he is in violation of the company policy. The woman who elected to have a consensual relationship with him is not in violation. He gets to get mentioned and put on Front Street. We don't know who she is. What about the other women within the Celtics organization who have been victimized because wrong assumptions have been made by their involvement? If you knew exactly who it was, that would alleviate the concerns of all the other women who have had their names paraded out into the streets. What about them? You ain't thinking about that. So here we are. We're throwing him out to pasture. And again, Ime Udoka cannot be defended. His actions are his actions. Nobody fights for black coaches more than me. But I am telling you, a firing would have been warranted. Or you keep him. But to keep him, yet suspend him, by the way, not just suspend him, but for the suspension to be indefinite.
It's almost worse, like a lame duck status.
That's what you did. You ruined his career for the next few years. He did it. He did his action. But
NBA reporter and host of NBA Today, our friend Malika Andrews. Malika, do you have us?
I've got you, Molly. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you for being with us. And obviously, you had the statement from Udoka that was given to you. What's your reaction now after hearing the press conference?
Well, Molly, thank you. If I could first start with this. Stephen A., with all due respect, this is not about pointing the finger. Stop. What became apparent to me in this press conference is that we do not have all of the information here. And it was frustrating to me that the Celtics declined to elaborate or to give more specifics about what exactly the rule breaking was that led us to this point. So that I just want to get that out of the way first. But to answer your question, Molly, I think what stood out to me, I think what stood out to me is that Brad Stevens, he was upset. That's what stood out to me about what he termed rampant Twitter BS is the word that he used, that women were unfairly dragged into this within the Celtics organization. You could see that Brad Stevens was visibly upset about this. And I also found that to be gross and unnecessary, that folks were bringing in the names and the images of women that is just not a fact. That was purely speculation. And so to me, that is what stood out. But the Celtics as an organization could have done more, and short of doing more ahead of this yesterday, they could have owned that responsibility in this press conference. I understand that there were legal parameters that they had to operate within for everybody involved, and I appreciate the fact that they brought in outside counsel and did a thorough organization. And I think that that is something that was clearly necessary in this situation. But the fact that it was able to go on all day, the fact that we are sitting here debating whether somebody else should have been suspended or not, we are not here, Stephen A., to further blame women. That is not why we are here.
First of all, let me be very clear. I don't appreciate where you're going with that. I'm not blaming anybody but Ime Udoka. He deserves, the fact of the matter is, I've said he deserved to be fired if they were going to fire him. If you're not going to fire him, then don't fire him. My issue is all of this being publicized. The point that I'm trying to make is just like you're not mentioning. Excuse me. I listened to you. You're the one telling me to stop on my show. It ain't happening. Okay, that's number one. Number two, I've already said he deserves to be fired or he deserves to be there and handle it internally and privately. If you're not going to handle it privately, if you're going to publicize it in that fashion, then obviously it provokes everybody wanting to know, okay, well, who are the parties involved? When you have Amina Smith in Boston and other women pointing out the fact that there were women who were wrongly implicated in all of this, it's a disservice to them. I didn't come out with the report about a consensual relationship. I didn't come out with the report ahead of time leaking that they were going to suspend him for the year. They did that. And my point is, considering how pervasive this kind of stuff has existed in professional sports for many years, my whole point is that, make sure that you handle it in the same fashion it has always been handled. You could have fired him, and then we could have speculated till the cows come home, but he's gone. But to keep him there, keep him employed, but in the same breath, suspend him for a year, then also that year is indefinite. That is the issue that I have. Nobody's trying to protect Ime Udoka, and certainly nobody is trying to protect, is to excoriate the women involved or anything like that. I'm talking about how things of this matter are usually handled from an HR perspective, from an organizational perspective. That is not consistent with what we have seen throughout the years. That is the only point that I was trying to make. I'm not trying to attack anybody. And if anybody deserves to be attacked, it's Ime Udoka for putting himself in this position. I've made that very clear. I'm just talking about you got owners and everybody else. They know the kind of stuff that's going on. You didn't say anything about anybody else. I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about them. They didn't say anything about everybody else all the other times this stuff has happened. But now when it comes to him, it's all over the place. That is my issue. That is my only issue.
I appreciate that clarification.
That he will not coach for them again. Our Adrian Wojnarowski with the story, reporting that Udoka had an intimate relationship with a female member of the franchise's staff, which is a violation of the team's code of conduct. Udoka released his first comments on the issue in a statement saying, "I want to apologize to our players, fans, the entire Celtics organization, and my family for letting them down. I'm sorry for putting the team in this difficult situation, and I accept the team's decision. Out of respect for everyone involved, I will have no further comment." And so Woj gets up with us early here from the West Coast. Woj, and obviously this was a story that got so much attention after you broke it yesterday, early in the day. And the question I think so many are asking is, why is this punishment so severe?
Well, ultimately, Greeny, Brad Stevens, the Celtics president and ownership, they're going to have to explain that. They may do that as soon as today. There may be an availability with Brad Stevens, but from what I'm told, that I think from certainly Brad Stevens' point of view, as the president of the organization and certainly the executive who hired Ime Udoka, that there was a break in trust from his perspective with Ime Udoka, of judgment, and I think for the Celtics, the very real possibility exists that Udoka never coaches this team again. Not only is this a one-year suspension, but there's no guarantee, and there was no assurance made to Udoka in the last days as they were really negotiating what this would look like, that he would ever be back as coach. They've left it open-ended beyond this season. And so it is severe. It is largely unprecedented for a sitting head coach to be facing this scenario short of firing. And that is the question many are asking. Why didn't they just cut ties with Udoka if they were going to go this far with the punishment? Stevens is going to have to explain that, but there's no question there are many around the league and many who have believed in Udoka, who have thought very highly of him and certainly know the job he did on the court in the last year, who do have questions about the severity of it. And again, why didn't Boston just walk away from him entirely?
It is worth reminding, I suppose, that in his first season as the head coach of the Celtics, they went all the way to the finals. And as of yesterday morning, they were the betting favorite to win the championship this coming season. We'll see how this impacts all of that. You mentioned Brad Stevens, who, of course, was the coach of the Celtics for several years before moving up to the front office last season. And so many will also ask the question, could he wind up being the coach again at some point this year?
Greeny, my sense is that Brad Stevens' plan and commitment is going to be to support Joe Mazzulla, who we're told is going